Hello, I'm Dale, and I'm joined here by Mike and also Bill Hunker. Hello, gentlemen.
Hi,
Good
Dale.
evening, Dale. Hi, Mike.
Hi.
It's nice to have you here, and we've got a full show for you today because we're going to do something you never see any other place. Criticize government? No, no. What we're going to do is we're going to play back under the fair use laws bits and pieces of the SOS cuffs, whatever they're called this week, that group that's pushing for the levy for raising your property taxes, and we're going to play little bits from that, and then we're going to talk about it. This should be fun. We know that you do this already when you're listening to, well, who listens to KJO? But if you did listen to KJO, you'd be talking back to your radio. Well, we're going to be doing that here, but first we're going to start off with yet another installment of Public Servants on Parade. Here we go with the clip from the meeting where Keith Eck decided to hand Judy her head. Poor Judy. And then he's doing it now with Vivian Kirkpatrick Pilger, who simply went. Here's the thing, the background for this is we've never had to be careful about holding up our hand just when Keith Eck looks at us. That instant, if you don't hold it up that instant, you won't get a chance to talk at the weekly business session. Since when did this start? There are many times where I would like to let somebody else speak, maybe not right now with Mike, good luck, Mike, but I would like to let somebody else speak before I speak, or they're talking all on the same subject, and so I'm holding back my subject. There are people who don't do that. Dave Everest will get up and talk. He'd be in the middle of talking about animal shelter, and Dave, I want to tell you about my website. Yeah, okay, Dave, thank you very much. So I try to keep quiet sometimes to let other people do their talking, especially new people.
Imagine that.
Well, yes, thank you. But now Keith Heck's new rule is that as he looks across the room, if you don't hold up your hand right when he's looking at you,
you're disqualified.
What? Where'd that rule come from? I'd never heard. Nobody's ever heard of that rule. Well, play this footage. This is great.
Anyone else? Oh, I'm sorry. If you want it, I start over there, and then I go over here, and nobody has their hands up until we wait until some opportune time. Oh, if we want to argue about it, we won't call you. That's fine. No problem. I'm sorry? Normally when people talk back, I take that as a argument.
Yeah. This is a public servant? Really?
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
He's just something.
What?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, this may be a weekly feature. Keith's dig of the week or something. You know.
She's over there, and I didn't think of Vivian Kirkpatrick Pilger this way, but she said, "Well, I wasn't, trying to talk back or be hard to get along with or whatever. It's Keith that's the problem. Keith has said to us in the past, well, you need to have decorum from a guy that called me. What was it?
What?
A
lying maggot.
A lying maggot? Really? The only person who comes close to scatological speech at these meetings is Keith Eck. Well, he learned that at the Gospel Rescue Mission?
Well,
hopefully not.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I'm talking about. How you get, of course, there's always been a flavor of Keith Eck. But now that he's the chair, it's a new and more intense flavor,
And for those who occasionally say, no, well, the people are being so rude, really not holding up your hand at exactly the right moment is being rude?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
I'd like you to compare, for anyone who feels that way, or if you have any neighbors that feel that way, tell them to compare this with Keith Eck saying something in a meeting. We videotape it, we put it up without comment, and then he says that we inserted words into his mouth. That's a little bit rude.
Yes. But I mean, after a while, you kind of go, well, that's Keith.
That's not good enough.
Okay. All right.
Well, you get a year of him.
Yes.
So he's going to have a lot of practice here. Well, maybe you make a collection of these, to kind of a souvenir package.
Oh, there will be. You can. I think you can take that to the bank.
Okay, so the big thing that we have tonight is the folks from, there are people who've asked for some equal time. I don't think they're going to get it from the radio station. It's possible. These are people from Cuffs/SOS that have come on KJO to talk about why it's absolutely essential that our property taxes get raised. And so we're going to play these for you, and then we're going to comment about them, the three of us. This should be fun. This show may go a little bit longer this evening, but look, you just get more free than you ever got before. So go ahead and play that first.
You can't get this kind of analysis elsewhere for good money. So now you're going to get it for free.
In-depth analysis.
That's right. Now, this first one here, and the first few actually are Scott Draper, because it was his turn to make the pitch in the beginning here, and here's number one.
The phrase public safety, Marty, it may sound impersonal, but the effects of our current lack of public safety are in reality very personal. It is our property that is being stolen, our families that have been hurt or are living in fear, and our neighbors that are in jeopardy. Measure 1766 is a grassroots effort, as you mentioned, a measure placed on the ballot by and for the people of Josephine County.
Well, first of all, Measure 17666, that started... that started with Keith Heck. We've shown you the videotape of that. We have it recorded, and they can yell and scream and hop up and down and say that's not true, but we have them on tape, so they're just going to need to argue with the famous inanimate piece of plastic and metal saying, I never said that, which Keith Heck has tried in the past. Unfortunately for him and for Cuffs, SOS, or whoever these guys are, it started with Keith Heck. So the idea that this was citizen originated, it might be picked up by the citizens now or by a group of public employees that are masquerading as citizens, but okay, it did not start with the public. So that's lie number one.
Yeah. That's in fact there was a little, I think, I won't call it perhaps as strong as infighting, but there were two groups vying to lead this last one, both of them with leaders, and both of them involved SOS and Cuffs with commissioners. So that's it's interesting that they're calling us a citizen. They want to represent the citizens. That's really what I think they're trying to say.
Right.
Well, could they look at the actual poll results, we call it a vote, that have indicated to everybody very clearly what a majority of the citizens would like? Remember, I don't know why you'd remember, but I voted for the levy the first couple of times when I first moved here, okay? And then after the third time I went, this is coming back again? Remember when we were showing you the videos, people were saying they had their own setup. Why is this coming up? Yes, but this one's totally different. This is not totally different.
Yeah,
and I asked the same question. No, do we have to vote on this again? This is voter abuse. Why does it come back again and again and again and again? Well, you know the answer, because they're thinking you're going to get tired or you're going to feel victorious, not go out. You don't need to go out and vote. What am I saying? Not vote from your home, and then they're going to finally win, and then we'll never hear the end of it. This is a 5-year levy.
Yeah, it's the spring festival levy.
Yes, that's right. And sometimes it's the autumn festival levy.
But, if they didn't quite get their act together in the spring.
Well, they've said at their meetings that they used to do this in November, and now they're doing it in May because less people vote. Look, they're telling you their tactics. Less people vote. Why are they doing this? Less people vote in May.
Because they don't want the anti-levy people to come out. They think, hey, wait a minute. If we get less of a percentage, then that is going to increase our chances of winning the levy. And they're right about that. But how scummy is that?
And why would they say that in
Now,
front of me?
how-
Because I'm just going to come and tell you that that's what they're doing. That's their tactic. They're trying to put one over on you. I don't mind, tactics that try to put your best foot forward. But this is pretty manipulative, don't you
Well,
think?
and listen, we haven't even begun to get there. So here's cut 2.
We have to be real about this. Our current lack of public safety is very expensive. We pay individually through theft, insurance premiums, insurance deductibles, hiring of private security firms, lower property values, lost opportunities when the right folks or the right businesses don't move here because of our lack of public safety, and we pay in many other ways. It is very expensive to not have a strong public safety presence. Measure 1766 is the cost-effective way to safety.
Yeah.
Cost-effective way.
Yes.
It's always interesting to me how they cite that people do not come here because of our public safety, and yet on the other hand, I never hear of who that is. I hear people come here because we have low taxes.
Right.
I sat behind a guy who said, "Man, I moved here a year ago because of the taxes."
Right.
And they were low, and that's why and the weather and the climate, of course. But they keep saying, well, these people are not moving in. I don't know who these people are, and who's alerting them that we have this terrible crime wave, this crime crisis.
Our local media, and they're all liars, because as we know now, having the actual numbers, that this whole lack of safety thing is a farce. We don't have a lower level of safety. Now, there may be a higher level of property crime. But if somebody steals something out of your driveway, are you... Now, I don't want to come off as I'm advocating, hey, a little crime's okay. But I don't know that you're less safe because somebody wants to steal. Well, I guess the probability that something could happen during a theft is one thing, but the numbers don't show that. The numbers show.
Here's the other thing that makes that a little confusing. They've also said they'll try any argument, but they've also said that people aren't reporting it. You mean to tell me, really, that if you have a motorcycle stolen from your driveway out in front of your house, it's your grandson's motorcycle, that you're not going to report that? Not to anybody?
Well, the insurance company
to insurance?
Well, they're going to require a police report to verify the fact it's been stolen.
So nobody's reporting that? Look, you can't have it every possible way. They're using anything to convince you, anything and everything. When it did it for me is Mark Gatlin sitting there, and I'm watching as he's telling people there's no ISF, there's no 10% taken off the top. You know what? That's illegal to tell people that, because that's not what it says on the petition. And to get people to sign something by telling them something that's not on the petition is illegal, it's immoral, and it's fattening.
You should hold that pitch for a little bit later. Go ahead, Bill.
I've lost my point. I was so engrossed.
Okay. Well,
I was wondering about the fattening, actually. But
well, believe me, there's plenty of time to jump in. Here's the next one.
Abused and troubled children in our community presently have nowhere to go to escape dangerous living conditions. Measure 1766 will reopen the Juvenile Justice Center, the shelter, and counsel youth who are in crisis.
I have a question there. I have not looked into this deeply, but I did look at how the departments were a year ago. I got a printout from the county, and I think there were 11 people in juvenile justice, and this was after they had lost their funding and so forth, and I had heard it was closed. And when I saw Jim Goodwin out there, I was wondering, what's Jim do? And then as he spoke one evening, I realized, okay, things are going on. So my question would be, what was the juvenile justice system? How did it close? What is going on now? And what are we getting that we don't have, would be getting and we don't have if we had the levy? I'm sure they would increase everything, But something is going on. We don't have a shuttered juvenile justice system. We have evidently a diminished one.
Well,
so anybody have any news about that?
Well,
Yes.
if you listen in the first part of that clip, he says, these people have no place to go now to escape, dangerous situations in their home. And I don't think that's true, is it, Dale?
No, I've been at the meetings where Jim Goodwin has reported. See, this is the value of having somebody at the meetings. Well, partly so you don't have to go to all these dang meetings, because sometimes they last 3 hours. Jim Goodwin is reporting to the commissioners and is explaining to them what is happening with these young people. And he's talking about the Measure 11 people, Measure 11 young people, and these are folks who have committed really bad crimes. Now, where are they putting them? Well, they just signed a new deal with Douglas County. They've already got one with Jackson County. What? Yeah, what they're doing is they're putting these young people on a bus or in a special vehicle or whatever, and they're taking them off to sit somewhere else. Okay, probably because part of the thing is it's really not doing them a lot. I would like to visit with my family. Oh, really? Okay, so they take them somewhere where they can keep them separate from an adult population. Well, the first thought you should have, I had, is, well, how are we paying for this? You know how they're paying for it? You've heard us say it a million times, and I'm not kidding you. It's in the magical budget. No, we're all doing it within the budget. Oh, but we could save a lot of money if we had it here. Right, with PERS, with the employees, with the paychecks. Oh, we just save a ton of money, but it's already in the budget. They're doing it without stretching the budget. So this is actually, I don't think Jim's a bad guy. Jim Goodwin is a bad guy. However, Jim, buddy, you're already handling it. This is not, as Scott Draper said, something where everybody's falling through the cracks. They're dealing with these kids. It may be costing us a little extra, but it's within the budget. So
listen, they want to reopen the juvenile justice kingdom is what they want to do, and they have their own little special building over there, and it has their own special little employees and all that kind of stuff, and they want to probably continue to grow that, add some new employees, add some new managers.
I'm not sure that's 100% fair, actually, Mike. I do understand what you're saying, but what I do think is right on what I think is right on this is they'd like to have it local. Okay, who wouldn't? And we'd like to have our own people paid to do it. Oh, okay. And it's going to be better because why is it going to be better?
Yeah.
The kids are being taken care of.
The facility they built.
Yeah, well, but that's all that it is.
Hang on a second.
I just wish that the transparency here is just say what's going on. I always hear we have closed the juvenile justice. We're going to reopen it, like somebody locked the door, left, and then we're going to get a key and open it when we get some money. And I think the public is able and willing and ready to hear what the truth of the matter is. But evidently the truth doesn't sell as well as this particular, we've shuttered the juvenile justice system.
Well, besides the fact that Scott Draper wasn't being very careful, and usually is very careful exactly the way he puts these things, in this case, did you not come off with the very solid impression that these kids have nowhere to go, we're not doing anything with them, they have no shelter, and this is why we need this. This, Scott Draper, is a lie. Maybe it's not the most efficient system, but it's not true that they have nowhere to go and our only salvation is 666. It's not true.
Yeah.
Yes, the impression is that somebody calls the cops, either the juvenile or the parent or whatever. Anyway, somehow they call the cops and they say, "I'm sorry, you're on your own."
Well, let's be honest about it.
Yeah.
Really, just to be bluntly honest about it, people know that these kids are not getting a local deal that would be a happy deal for them. Okay, well, maybe they don't get it because they've been goofing up, and sometimes they haven't been. Right. We know that that's the case, but given the choice, taxpayers given the choice, look, whether they're brilliant or knuckleheads, they chose to fund an animal shelter. and they did not choose to fund a youth shelter. This is the decision that the people made. Now, Jim Goodwin and other people, Scott Drave, oh, that's terrible. The people need to what? The people need to be informed. They've been informed. The people need to care. The people care as what they care for. Well, they need to be forced. Aha! They need to be forced to do this.
That's
they
really
need to be
the
forced
crux
where
of
their
this whole
property
thing.
could be taken away from them because they haven't made the decision that you would like. I'm not especially happy with the decision, but the people have spoken.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, next clip.
Measure 1766 will create a safe community which is needed to attract new business, support the growth of those that are already here, and bring more jobs. Measure 1766 truly creates a vibrant community.
Now, of course, that's silly, you know, on its face. You know, I mean, it doesn't do anything of the kind. And if for some reason we're having trouble getting companies to come here because of a public safety situation, it's only because that some story that's based on a falsehood has been
they're
created.
misrepresenting. They are misrepresenting what is going on, and you know, I hear that mostly from government commissioners and government employees. I don't hear this out in the community. I have a neighbor who's lived his whole life here, 44 years in the same house. He doesn't lock his doors. He doesn't lock his car. He said, I've never had a single problem. He said, this is a safe community. He said, now he's out in the county, which is 4 times safer than in the city.
Mm-hmm.
But what I hear is not from my neighbors about the problems. I hear it from the commissioners, and we can't get anybody here. Look at the terrible crime.
Right.
And there is no terrible crime. It is the same as it's always been for 20 years.
Well, the other thing is, once you look at the figures that Bill brought us, that are based on the reporting that comes from our city and our county, that's then compiled by the FBI and then fed back to us, it doesn't fit what local law enforcement would like. We know that there's more crime inside the city. There's nobody saying that there's not more crime, 4 times, 5 times as much crime within the city of Grants Pass than any other place, okay? And then we've got a special deputy that's out just for Cave Junction. Okay, we already know that. And so, and they report, I go to their meetings occasionally, it's like, well, there was 2 parking tickets, and I mean, they're out there, and there's a little bit more than that, but it's the same kind of stuff that happens in most regular communities, and they generally take care of that if they're paying attention. This idea that the county, because this is a county measure, and it's about patrols or responses or whatever dealing with the county, not with the perception is that there's good law enforcement within Grants Pass City. And what they're telling us is, and we heard this from the sheriff and from the police chief the other day, the perception is that people are feeling as if they're in danger out in the county. But who's fueling this? If you look at KJO's website, it's nothing but crime. We've been blamed at badcounty.com for driving companies away, but we don't report about the crimes that are happening. That's Cheryl Walker, Keith Hicks, Simon Hare, KJO, and the law enforcement community that are saying, oh, it's so dangerous out there. But don't forget that you were lied to by the last sheriff. He actually had to admit that those were false pieces of information. It wasn't true that 9% of the homes have been burglarized. Who's creating this impression?
Yes, but and it's not only the last sheriff, though, because the local media is all behind this, too, and a lot of other county employees. Now, SOS, and I've said this 100 times, is dominated. Their core membership is public employees. And I'm sure that there's a smattering of the same people in cuffs. So the bottom line is that they want this. Why do they want it? And you hate to be cynical about it, but they want more money pouring into government so they can do what they want with it. And that's, you know what? And I know, but that's what it is. Because there's no other reason fits. I can sit there and try to put the different pegs in this round hole, and only one of them fits, and that's that they just want more money.
Well, when they were
Well,
collecting the
and
signatures,
something excuse me, Mike, this is something you never hear them discuss is if this levy would go, what happens to the money that's been going to security, and that is 31 cents out of the 58 cents traditionally has gone to security. Are they going to continue that 31 cents in addition? No. That 31 cents now becomes free money back in the account. And I have yet to see anybody say, oh, no, we're not going to do that. You don't hear a word about what the intention is for that 31 cents out of the 58.
we know what
That
they're
will
going to do
disappear
with it.
into the other accounts.
We know what they're going to do with it. Look, the commissioners, one good thing, there's only one good thing I can think of about not enough money to run our county government the way the commissioners would like to, is it starves them of money, and you have seen again and again and again how they're spending the money. 214 full-time jobs are going to be created by making a wheelchair ramp. We're going to give this guy $50,000 because he says, I'm not going to really report back to you about what I'm doing. All of these, this is very poor money management, and I don't want to see the commissioners get more money because they're wasting it. We prove to you almost every day that they're just knuckleheads when it comes to managing money. I don't want them to have more money.
Okay, lots more to go here.
Also, Measure 1766, most importantly, restores sheriff patrols and emergency response so that when you call 911 or 911 in an emergency, a sheriff deputy will respond. It will also provide a presence of law enforcement in the county through resident deputies and other programs, creating a proactive approach to crime.
Yeah.
A proactive approach. Look, we've already talked with the sheriff. He was on this show. And we said to him, how would you do this? And he said, well, what I'd like to do is I'd like to put 2 deputies out in IV. We just have 1 now. And I'd like to put 1 deputy in Merlin. And I asked him, I said, now, how is this safer when you've got this guy doing it all, probably a guy, doing it all by himself?
Yeah.
That was my best argument that devastated you guys when you lost that debate with me about the levy.
I don't remember that.
Well, I'm still trying to get over it. I've had to have a little counseling.
But the thing is that that's really not a safe situation. Honestly, now, everybody, that's not a safe situation. It is their best argument, but they're not using that argument. You find it interesting that this thing about safety, about lives, about believing in our police officers, about getting behind them and their families, about avoiding $1 million, $2 million lawsuit, this is not an argument that they picked up and run with. Why haven't they picked up and run with this argument?
Yeah.
Any ideas, gentlemen, about why they wouldn't?
No, he's going to skunk us again.
Because
what is it, Dale?
I'll tell you why. Because I already know the answer. That's why I ask you.
It was a setup.
Yes.
They don't intend to do this. Yes, it would be safer. We really you shouldn't be sending out 1 patrolman. Come on.
Oh, right. Yeah, listen, why wouldn't they tell us stuff that they plan to do that they really aren't planning to do? I mean, that's part of this whole thing. I mean, and the further we get through some of these clips, that'll become apparent.
The further we get through, I get the cue there from you.
Yes,
okay, go to the next one.
1766 provides for a Citizens Oversight Committee, and we like to talk about this a little bit in more depth, and that is comprised of local citizens throughout the county and from different walks of life, ensuring that our tax dollars are spent for cost-effective public safety only. So a yes vote for 1766 will really prevent further loss of community public safety and enhance our way of life. 1766 really is safety and security for our community.
Brother. I mean, even if you believe in this, doesn't that sound like a lot of blather? And what's this thing we like to talk about it? Remember he said we like to talk about it? No, they don't, because all they say is there's going to be a committee. Who's on the committee? Who are these people from various walks of life? Aren't they from various parts of the Rotary Club? I mean, what is this? What is this? We like to talk about it. No, you don't.
Yeah,
and I was out in Merlin and saw the presentation out there, and Scott Draper said out there, the committee has been chosen. And I was surprised. I didn't know it had been chosen. I had heard before that, well, everybody's busy making the bylaws. But the committee has been chosen. He was quick to add, now this is just the starter committee and they won't be in there very long, but we had to have somebody in there. So we've got a committee going now. But they didn't mention a single name. They didn't mention how many. But you're absolutely right. They don't want to talk about it because they're afraid when those names go out, people will say, just a minute, what about this and what about that he or she did?
Well, let's take the bottom line.
It's going to be held until after the election, is my impression.
Well, part of okay, hang on a second, Dale.
Okay.
Part of the problem is that I put the brakes on Dale, so that I shoved my own brain back in my head. No, no. The part of the problem here is that they're no, it's gone.
Aw.
It's gone.
Take it away, Dale.
Dale, you're gonna have to. Dale, you're dominating here. You're gonna have to let some other people talk. All right, just please do that. All right, let's move on to the dreaded perception.
You know, our forefathers said in the United States Constitution and the Oregon Constitution in their preamble that in the first line there's justice. The word justice is in there, and that's really where we're struggling. And I don't think it's, you know, statistically driven or anything like that. I think most people out there right now, their perception is that public safety is inadequate. And so, and really, to most people, perception is reality. And so, if they're feeling that it's not inadequate, and the system of justice, and I can tell you right now, it's not functioning at 100%, then we need to create something. And this public safety measure is just a bridge to maybe get there for a few years.
Wow. Yeah. We have spent at least 2 years, in my estimation, doing a propaganda campaign about the deteriorating crime, and I think there was collusion between the former sheriff and the Courier when they set up the picture of the criminals skipping down the sidewalk. I see that as the ground zero for, okay, crime is now out of control and terrible, and we have a crisis. And they've never let up since that picture.
Yeah, well, you know, one of the interesting things about this perception issue is that there isn't any desire on his part to want to change the perception to actuality, because this perception is totally based on you know, fake stories, you know, or you know, perhaps the reporting of so much crime that they're developing this idea that this is a norm that is taking place in this county, when in actuality it really isn't. And they just want to create that impression because that's what makes it easier to pass the levy. You know,
it's a fear tactic, and it's a manipulation, and it's propaganda that has not abated in the last year and a half, 2 years. Anytime you turn around, oh, it's because we didn't have money. Oh, it's because we didn't have money. And that even goes out into the county and the way they're dealing with the public. Well, if we had money, you know, and then we could take care of this terrible crime problem. But again, going back to the reality of it is, it's the same as it's always been. Take it away, Dale.
Dale doesn't really, he's like gun shy now. I slapped
Did you shoot at him?
I'm sorry, Dale. Didn't mean to hurt your feelings or anything.
Go ahead and play the next clip.
Okay.
One of the questions submitted by listeners is in regards to the levy, how much do they take off the top and why and for what? Any one of you answered that?
Well, yeah, there's nothing taken off the top. This is this was why our group, Community United for Safety, which you'd mentioned, the growing coalition, that is the beginning of this, and it's been growing at a really heartening pace over the last months. The reason that we were so specific about the ballot language, the language that will be on the ballot, which came from actually a scientific study. The group of us raised $25,000, hired a professional company to do a survey, and what we found what the majority of people want in our county is exactly what we put on the ballot. That's what we turned into the county. It's what we fought for. We fought for that language. It's very specific. There are, by the way, laws in Oregon that a very specific law that says those government officials need to use that money for exactly as stated. And again, that's why we were so specific about this language. Taking off the top, you might be, or someone may be referring to the administrative fund.
Right.
Yeah, there's a 10% administrative fund. I have a business. I have 120 employees. If I could have all my administrative costs paid for with 10% of my expenses, or 10% of my even total income, I would be a lucky man and I would make a whole lot of money. That is a very efficient system for paying for things like toilet paper and fuel and all those things that are needed, much more efficient than if each department within the county did it.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, my reaction to that is that what they're doing with the ISF at the commissioner's office? Are they busy cutting checks for fuel and toilet paper and toner and stuff like that?
No.
$900,000 worth a year. You know,
No.
what you have to realize is even if this levy doesn't go, they are funding and have set up and take care of the current situation. So the sheriff's office has their checks cut, has everything that they have. What you then do is add some more people, and that extra is not $900,000. You know, that's the point that I'm strong on is they may use some funds. They'll use a little funds when they add some more people to the database and cut them checks and make out some reports with their names on it. But we're not talking about a $900,000 for 16 more deputies.
Mm.
Well, since the ISF is my main issue, I'm going to talk just a little bit about that. I was just at a meeting with the county commissioners, watching them talk about their staff at the front desk. And they were saying, well, we may need to cut back on the amount of staff that we have at the front desk because we may not have enough ISF money coming in. So if you buy the idea, and they also talked about travel, executive travel, like Simon here going off to Washington, D.C., and his official report was nothing happened. He spent that time there, we paid for his trip, and he came back with nothing, and he reported that nothing happened. So if you think that you're interested in law enforcement, or let's suppose you voted for the animal shelter levy, and you thought all the money was going toward that. No, part of that money goes toward keeping Simon Hare traveling to Washington, D.C. to do what for law enforcement? To do what for the animals?
Yeah. That's.
You know what? I just think that it's amazing how government is so efficient that, I mean, this guy, he just got done saying, if I could get all this administrative work done for 10%, I would be a rich guy. So isn't it amazing that government is so efficient that not only can they pay for all of that stuff more efficiently than private business, but they can take trips to Washington and pay for extra people in their department and do all kinds of fancy stuff on top of that with that money. I mean, that's how efficient they are. Amazing.
Yeah. Yes.
Anyway, there's more on the ISF.
Okay.
In regards to the monies that are obtained through the levy, how can they be sure that it will fully go to the cause? Law enforcement is mentioned here, but of course there are other entities involved. But how can they be assured? How can the voters, citizens, be assured that the money isn't going to be diverted via the commissioners or anything like that? And you mentioned that in the language of the levy.
Really great question, and it was one of the things that was glaring when we did the scientific survey, the polling. We found that people in our community needed a bridge of trust between our money and our county officials. And so what this levy or this measure provides is a citizens oversight committee. That committee will be made up of folks from throughout the community, throughout all of Josephine County, from different areas of Josephine County, and from different walks of life. That is being worked on right now. The bylaws are being put together right now, and by the time we pass this levy in May, that will be put into place.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah. And not a word until then, by the way.
Well, I'm a little confused. What is a walk of life? Maybe we need a better definition as to what that is. Does that mean that they're going to have some homeless people on this board?
Who dominates SOS and Cuffs? Who are most of the members of SOS and Cuffs? Where did they come from?
Government employees and employers of people in the county.
Yeah.
The larger businesses and government employees.
Going to be the same basis.
There you go. That's what's being sold to you. We were told 2 levies ago by Mark Gatlin. He pointed at me and Sandy Casanelli, and he said, the people who are going to supervise this are right here, and he's pointing at us. And we looked at it like, what? No. Who are you pointing it at here, buddy? And the thing is, if this oversight stuff is so efficient, let's just take a look at just one example. Herb Carter, according to the county commissioners, was writing blank checks with the Fair Board. And he signed a contract with Pepsi that we're just now getting out of. And they were maintaining separate unknown bank accounts to the commission, to the county, unknown by the county. Now, we had Eisler and Associates or some other audit firm to come in. They didn't see that. They never found out about that. Okay, eventually it was revealed. Now, if we bring in professional audit people, similar to the professionals that have been chosen to do this poll. By the way, this poll is run by people who actually helped the last levy pass up north. So they're not just pollsters, they're also people that get you to vote for something. So what's scientific about that?
Well, and I'll tell you, in the next clip here, Mr. Draper, now I'll just clarify my thinking on it. I don't think this guy is a bad guy. I think he probably believes that what he's doing is the right thing for the county. But he got sucked into this thing in the same way and with the same tactic that they are trying to suck other people into this.
Once I started finding out the real predicament we're in and how it's affecting our community, I learned through a member that had canceled their membership. It was a couple, and they stated, we do an interview of all our members that are leaving, and they stated that they were leaving the area because they didn't feel safe. That really hit me in the heart, and I became convicted, and there was a lot of others of us that got together, and our mission was to ensure workable and sustainable public safety in Josephine County by May of this year.
Yeah, so I mean, he now I'm assuming that his story is true, but somebody I would have wanted to know where they got that impression, and I guess I mean, if you were Scott, maybe you're watching the news a lot and you believe it.
Now, if you're Scott, and you think that you're listening to your wife, what does Scott's wife do? How does she describe her job, her previous job, and her current job? Scott's wife.
Yeah, I don't know.
She gets bills passed. She helps people do this kind of project. So I would guess that he probably every once in a while says, hello, honey, and she says, let's pass this thing. That's what she does. And when I asked a question in one of the SOS meetings, Scott's wife said, oh, this guy, well, you don't believe we can trust the commissioners. I said, no, I don't. It's for a good reason I believe this. Where have you been? Oh, well, then he's the enemy. Really? Now, if you believe the commissioners, I don't know why you're watching the show, but if you believe the commissioners and you think that you want to get in bed with them, why join Scott Draper and his wife and the Courier and believe in the commissioners. Go right ahead.
Yeah. This is I'm always amused when as soon as it even starts to be said that the commissioners are involved in this. Oh no, we're not involved in this. And I'm thinking, who's buying that? Is that really a story that people are buying, that they have nothing to do with it? It's just kind of a surprise for them?
Yeah.
Well, do you remember the famous picture of Keith Hick pointing at us, mostly at me, and saying, if you laugh, if you chortle, why, we're going to toss you out of this room. Now, what was that about? It's because Keith Hick had said, we've not been involved with this. There's no way that we're... I'm thinking the videotape, we have the video of you, Keith. What, were you denying once again that the videotape exists, or that it put words in your mouth?
Yeah.
Well, you can be ejected from this room if you start telling people that you know what? That's not working, Keith. Not working.
Well, we have a friend that we talked to and said Keith was mad as heck because he was told not to endorse the levy because it would hurt the campaign. Please do not publicly endorse the levy. And he said he was really upset that he couldn't endorse it. They didn't want him to. And I thought, and that's hearsay. This is secondhand to me, so maybe it happened, maybe it didn't happen, but I could see where they would probably want to do that with Keith.
But it's not hearsay to look at the videotape from this summer. Here's Keith Hick talking with Jim Goodwin. We have it on tape. You can't deny that it exists, Keith. It's too late. As soon as you did that, ball game over. You can no longer say that this originated with citizens that are mostly made up of county and city employees.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not going to buy that.
Now, a listener wrote in an email and asked, why is there now a deputy at the weekly business session? And listen to what he says about it. It's very interesting.
Why is the sheriff assigning a deputy to sit at county commissioner weekly business sessions rather than on the beat?
Sure, it's a pretty easy answer. Honestly, number one, it was requested of me to see if that was possible, and certainly it is. We're talking about 1 hour, a day there, not every day. But I think government needs stability. Emotions and things like that, and those type of venues can get high. People can get seriously upset. Sometimes it even need to be removed. If that's the case. It hasn't happened yet. And that's a great thing. Maybe the presence has quelled that.
Maybe the presence of this officer has quelled that sort of activity. I'm so glad this guy is there now, because it was like walking into a war zone before. Every week there was, chairs flying and, gunshots going off, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I'm glad I don't go every week for the havoc that there must have been.
You've seen the videotape.
And when he says this, he's been there 2 times. So maybe he quelled it in two visits, and now we're all going to behave.
Well, you've seen the videotape, and who seems to be out of control more than anybody else in that building? Who is it?
It's the current chair.
Yeah,
that's correct.
He's
any
the wild
likelihood
man.
that the sheriff's deputy is going to walk out and escort Keith Hick out of the room?
No, and he also said
Don't
something.
think that'll happen.
Yeah, he also said something in the beginning that it was requested of him. Now I wonder who requested it of him.
They feel like the citizens don't trust them, that they're confronting them with words, and you saw the videotape where Judy Aarons, is there, a more quiet person, and she wants to hold up a sign saying, if you cannot hear this, she can't say it, because if you can't hear the broadcast, then it won't do any good to say anything. She wanted to hold up a sign, and he came unglued about that, and he wanted her to sit down right now, and she says, but why? I don't need to explain myself to you. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. Hey, you know what? We're not out of control. I remember when oh, shut up, Dale. Okay.
No.
Yeah, no, the other thing I was wondering about, because I heard about this before, that this question came through, and I'm wondering if this isn't part of the propaganda right on up till the May levy that it's so bad I've had to put somebody in down in the commissioners meeting because crime we don't know where it's going to pop up anymore.
Right.
And it just emphasizes that we've got to do something publicly here. And my goodness, out of all that's happened, the only person that ever had called the police was Cheryl.
Yeah.
And they finally had to meet with her and say, you can't be using up our resources for your little meeting. And she never called again after that.
Well, let me ask you, where are the resources more scarce? In the police department, who they called before, or in the sheriff's department, who they're keeping a deputy in the corner now?
Absolutely. Yeah. Why don't we request that if we're going to have a deputy, we get him one out of the 52 guys that are over there?
Well, now, throughout this whole program, Dave Daniel spoke at length in a few places about mitigating liability in the department, and here he starts talking about the host asks him about guns, and again he goes first to the liability issue when asking about people and use of deadly force. So here's that.
I wanted to ask you, Dave, the open carry is becoming more and more prevalent in our area. People in the county are saying, well, I've got my 45 here. That's all the justice I need. It's not that simple. When can a homeowner use lethal force?
Boy, the laws are they vary, and there might only be two people that tell the story, so who knows? You put yourself at a great deal of risk, a great deal of liability when you go to that level of force. I caution people to use that. However, I am a strong advocate for the Second Amendment, and think that we are inundated with getting concealed handgun licenses, and I think people should have that. I want the good people of this county to know that I'm on their side, and the good people of this county go through the process and take the steps to do that. They should.
Wow. Okay.
I'm wondering though. He does seem to advocate at the end of that, but I'm wondering, is he thinking? Whose liability is he looking to cut down on there? The citizen or his liability for advocating it?
Yeah, I hadn't thought the other way around there. I suppose if he's out advocating, then someone could come back later on certainly on a sheriff. I don't know about the department, but certainly on the sheriff, since he's an elected official, and say he gave us wrong information or something. Yeah, he was pretty outspoken there. I've not heard him be that outspoken for Second Amendment before.
Yeah, well, he did that on our show once before and said that he was in favor of the Second Amendment, but he always leads into it like the last time he led into it, guns are not the answer, and then this time he leads into it with well, you got to be careful about the liability aspect of things. Personally, I think, if somebody's threatening my life or my family's life or something like that, I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6.
Yeah.
So, and you know what? I don't know. I know people who open carry. I don't know anybody who talks like that. And people who don't carry, and people who don't know people who carry or hang around with them or have conversations with them, they always characterize their conversations like that. Like, yeah, my 45, that's all the justice I need.
Yeah, yeah.
Which,
right out of my favorite movie. Yeah.
That's a little silly.
No.
It's setting up a straw man.
Right, don't talk that way.
It's setting up a straw man. As Mike was just saying, if they characterize you as, no one would approve of somebody saying, I've got a gun so everyone else can go to hell, or whatever it is that is that attitude. There's nobody. So if you characterize the people who are questioning whether the money will go to the right place as people who believe in chaos, as Dennis Weber said, and people who are saying, well, I've got my gun, that's all that I need, nobody else matters, well, yeah, they're going to seem unreasonable. Can we be fair about what they're saying? I'm not saying that. And I do question this levy, and I question it for good reasons because I know what the commissioners are about.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what? This from a guy who does have guns and who does occasionally carry. Now, I'm not an open carrier, but I do carry concealed a lot of the time, and to me, my 45 isn't all the justice I need, but I figure it may hold me until a cop gets there to take care of the rest of the business. You know, it isn't. It's not a cowboy thing at all. I'm being realistic. I live quite a ways from town. It's going to be. I would be willing to bet it'd be at least 20 minutes. And probably closer to 40 minutes before a cop arrives at my house. So what am I supposed to do? Wait and say, hang on just a second here. Don't come through my door because I still got 20 minutes to wait or something.
Yeah, I'm on hold.
I'm on hold. It's unrealistic.
Yeah.
Oh, and then so this next clip here is Daniel.
One of the things I would really like to do upon.
Whoops, sorry. Is Daniel talking about putting deputies in the schools.
One of the things I would really like to do upon this measure passing, and I think it's very, very important, is to get some resident deputies out there in basically the three corners of this county. I want them to live within the geographic boundaries of the different school districts, the three high schools, Illinois Valley, North Valley, and Hidden Valley. I want those resident deputies, the three of them, to work out of the high schools, not necessarily be in the high schools, all day, that type of thing, as be a school resource officer, because we just don't have the numbers for that. But to be there for the kids in times of crisis, to mentor, that type of thing.
Brother, okay,
well,
I gotta jump in here, guys. Look, the idea that you would like someone to live near a school. Now, just exactly how are you going to do that? Why, we're not going to hire you unless you live near the school, or we are asking you to move. We're requiring you to move near the school. Come on, that's not going to. This is what I'd like to do if I had the money. This is what I'd like to do. Dave, I was there when the commissioners were listening in on one of these, big TVs, which they don't use anymore. What a waste of money. And they were being coached by people up north. They were saying, okay, here's what you got to do. We've told you about this before. You got to work these kids in somehow, some way. Well, I don't know if we can afford that. You don't need to afford it now. You say this is one of our goals. It was almost as if Dave Daniel had been there when they were explaining how to pass a levy. You tell people you're going to protect their children, and they eat it up. And then suddenly, the next day, Gil Giberson, I'd like to see this, I'd like to see that. Now, how are you going to do that, Gil? Well, we'll see our way. You're just doing it to pass it. You're going to really use the kids and the safety of the kids and the way that people feel about them to pass a levy.
Yeah, and I noticed he said we're going to be there for the kids in times of crisis. Well, the first thing that conjures to your mind is that somebody comes in to shoot up the school, and there's going to be a deputy there, and that image is in your mind. So now I better vote for that. The bottom line, I thought they only had 3 deputies for the entire county anyway. Are they all going to be in the high schools? How are they going to get anywhere else if they're in the high schools?
Well,
he probably watched the Mark Van Holly thing.
People.
He probably watched the Mark Van Holly contract debate with the commissioners where he said, I'll target doing lots of nice things. Well,
Yes.
it looks like, I'm sorry, Sheriff, but it looks like you're taking a page out of the Mark Von Holly book. Well, I'm not required to do it, but I'd sure like to. What does that have to do with this levy?
Right. And then, well, now that the levy is passed, I don't want to do half the stuff I told you I was going to do.
That's
Well, yeah, we
said.
found out it cost more for that widget.
Yes.
Yeah, I wonder too. Has anyone even looked into the practice of who's going to give him an office? How much are they going to charge for that office? Because the school district's hurting for money, and they're going to want it. Their due if they're supporting the sheriff in an office and lights and heat and phone and who knows what. I wonder if any of that's been really vetted at all as a practical solution.
Look, this is not a remake of Three Amigos, and it's not Three Curmudgeons either. All right, what we're trying to say to you is these guys will go far enough with this to suggest that they're going to do something which they're probably not going to be able to do. And the reason they're doing it is they know that the safety of children, kittens, sunshine, is so important to you that they're willing to say, we'd sure like to do this, when it's not in the cards. They're not going to be able to do it. And they're doing this so that you will have an emotional response and say, oh, I guess we better do for that, because think of the children. Really, anytime a politician says to you, think of the children, just pat to make sure your pocketbook is still there.
Yeah.
Yeah, double check.
Yep.
Now that's right.
And I'm not sure what this next one is, but I believe it's another question from a listener.
Yeah, you mentioned making that phone call with the passing of the levy. We might actually have somebody to answer that call.
That would be nice.
And that's been kind of a scary thought when you think about it.
No, that was just, I just thought that was kind of a funny comment that now somebody's going to be answering that phone. Doesn't somebody always answer the phone? Do you call and get a message phone sometimes or something?
I suppose between 10 o'clock at night and 6 o'clock in the morning, maybe? I don't know.
I thought that went to the OSP or something during those hours.
Yeah, I imagine it does.
Yeah.
And that's, the other thing that needs to be said, and said I think each time that this is discussed, is I'm not personally, nor any of the group that I'm associated with, are against safety and against even money for safety. But the timing on this, the lack of detail, this isn't the levy that's going to do it for us. This is going to put all the stuff way down the road. All the commissioners that are in now will be gone, and somebody will finally walk in and say, "Oh man, what a mess!" and we should have done thus and so. It is time for everyone to compromise and start talking together about how we really can have the product and the systems that we need in this county at everyone's involvement, and everyone is compromising. And I don't see where the compromise is coming either on the county government, on the sheriff's department. We're the ones that are picking up the whole tab, and once it's done, there will be no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And everyone says, well, we'll have this oversight committee for these funds. If you read what the actual wording is, it is so loose you could drive a truck through it. We're going to get cars. How many cars? What will they cost? How often are you going to buy them? We're going to do this. I mean, anything that they do regarding the sheriff, the committee will say, well, I see that went to the right place, because we don't have any ideas of really what's going on. They did say 16 officers to patrol. Okay, we can count that, and we can actually see when that happens. After that, there's no accountable. It's just they get $8-9 million, and it goes away, and we say, yeah, I think that all went to the sheriff. The people are not in that mood anymore. After 2008, the economy has changed, and the citizens have awakened and said, I had to change my life, but I don't see where the government is putting their chips in the basket and understanding our situation. So that's one of the reasons. But we're not against public safety. having a sheriff's department that gives us what we need in this county. But it's certainly, there's no crime wave. We've stayed steady for 20 years, and it will stay steady another year because the crime is very low in the county, and the city is fully funded.
When the commissioners were talking about the ISF in one of these little meetings that I sat in just a couple of days ago, Shara Walker got very angry because they were asking, well, what about our office? When are we going to get our money? And she said, well, we'll just have to shut down some of the office hours for people to come and see us. And, well, I don't know if I like that, says Simon here. Well, then the people just ought to, she got really upset. Well, they're just not paying enough in taxes. See, this is the direct result of the ISF, which they say means nothing, but that 10% means a lot to the commissioners. And if it was the difference between passing a levy and not passing a levy, it came down to they're never going to give in, because Simon's not going to give in going out and acting like the big guy from the middle of nowhere, Oregon. He needs those trips. And these guys need this money. And if you would think that if this was the sticking point, that they would say, well, you know, maybe we ought to think about that. They never say that. And the SOS Cuffs people and the other county and city employees that are running this show, they never talk about, well, we ought to think about the ISF. Not once. They don't even want to mention it. And if they do mention it, oh, well, that's really nothing, and it's really the most efficient way. If it's the most efficient way, how come we haven't always done it that way? If it's the most efficient way, how come some other counties don't do it that way? If it's the most efficient way, then show us in state law where it says that we have to do that, which they've said. They're lying to us. I don't like giving money to people that lie to us. I just don't like it. I'm not going to do it.
I wonder if there's any infighting within that office about, hey, you just took a trip to Washington. Now I got to get such and such, you know, a fight for equity of the, you know, use of the slush fund or something.
No. Can you imagine Keith Hick in Washington, D.C., and some senator says to him, well, Keith, what's happened in your county?
I don't know.
Really?
Well, yeah, but no, I'm saying, you know, well, Simon got to go to Washington. Maybe, you know, Keith wants to go to Portland or to Salem or something.
Well, Cheryl goes to Salem quite often in the first couple of years, I know.
Huh.
Keith doesn't want to go places.
And you know, they can do all of that and administrate all the departments of the county at the same time.
You know, the charter that we have, there are 7 counties that have home rule charter. And of the 7, we are the only ones that have ISF funds, which is real interesting to me. I just learned this last week, that all of the counties with home rule charter do not have the ISF. Now, I have not vetted that personally, which I will do, but it was from a trusted source. And I'm going to check on that, because all of a sudden you say, what is it about a home rule charter that they did not do it? And as you said, Dale, they didn't used to do this. And so all of a sudden, now this is one of the most important things. And Dale, a show you had, I think this last week even, when you said, if you went to Dave Daniel and said, listen, why don't you fight for that $900,000? And there are a whole lot of people that line up behind you, and if they would give that in, I'm willing to relook at this. And you know, if it makes a difference of actually getting a levy to do something or keeping the ISF funds, right now, it appears that the ISF funds win.
Yeah.
Now, what does that tell you?
They don't have their ISF funds, so they won't have any money.
What does that tell you?
And this is a key point.
Yeah, they're willing to put
I was
all
just
of
saying
us.
what Dale was saying is the point. Yes.
Yeah, and they're willing to put all of us at risk. They're willing to put all of us at risk for this thing that doesn't mean anything, right? Oh, it doesn't mean anything. Why? As Cliff Thomason puts it, well, it's really only half of 1%. Cliff, no.
Yeah.
No. And if it really was that, you'd have said it more than just one time and more than just to me, and I'm repeating it to everybody. They're going to say anything they have to, including bringing in the safety of children. Is there anything more despicable than that? Well, we can't do it, but we'd sure like to. What does that have to do with the price of tea? Nothing.
Well,
Yeah.
well, and guess what's going to happen if you don't vote for the levy? Well, maybe the state will come in and take over.
Scott, I'm going to let you field this one. A listener asked, says they were under the impression that at some point the state would step in and mandate a levy, and assuming that would be considerably higher than the proposed $1.40 that this organization is proposing. Where does Josephine County stand with that? And man, I can tell you right now, I do not want the state to step in and make those decisions for us.
Well, David said it earlier. This is an opportunity for us to take care of ourselves. And the cost, as I had mentioned also earlier, one of the potential costs of not doing it ourselves is having a larger entity. In this case, the caller or the person that emailed in, speaking of a state entity. The problem with that is it's not going to be as effective and it's not going to be as efficient. It'll cost more. It'll get less done. If the state does step in, and there's much talk of that in Salem, the state troopers here spend a lot of time out in our county, and they're not going to continue to do that for free. There has been a lot of talk about possibly a minimum amount of tax that each county must pay. Many people know we pay 20% here in Josephine County of the average county in Oregon. There has been talk of them stepping in, making a minimum. There's also been some talk of them actually taking over public safety. The problem with that is we don't have any control over it again. I know a lot of people are concerned that the money goes to exactly where it's been earmarked, to public safety and to specific areas, making sure we have patrols, making sure we have emergency response, making sure we have appropriate number of jail beds, making sure that the Juvenile Justice Center is reopened. If the money comes in that way, it goes to our government. The sheriff really doesn't have as much to say about, or possibly anything to say about where that money goes. It goes into a general fund. So we really have an opportunity here to take care of ourselves. Everything is lined up for us. Now's the time to do it. Measure 1766 is truly a small investment for a big return.
Brother, there's so much in that. Look, one of the important things is that I've often said, whether the people are smart or not, they voted. Now, so they voted the first time saying, no, we don't want to do this. And then a group of people, similar to saying this, the governor's going to come down here with their stormtroopers, a group of people said, no, you don't understand what you're doing. We're putting on the ballot again. And the people voted again. They gave a solid answer to that. And then a group of people said, no, you still don't know what you're talking about. We're going to put it on again. Now, how many times does that need to happen before you realize that these local people who are putting this on the ballot again and again and again, insisting that you don't understand, they're the ones with the learning disability. They're worse than somebody from Salem coming down here because they're doing it to us and they live in this community and they refuse to take no for an answer.
Yeah, I was thinking as I was listening to that, it's what's the difference? You know, when he says we don't want them coming in, he's saying we as in we, the insider people. We don't want them coming down. It's not the rest of the people. And the funny thing is it seems to me that the proposed amount that they're talking about, putting as an automatic, a tax rate for people is $2. Well, how is that any different than adding 58 cents to $1.40?
Yep, 2 cents difference.
Yeah. Oh, okay. 2 cents, right.
I mean, that's what's a little comical about it is if we wait and they go to $2, all right, we're 2 cents out. If we pass the levy now and on top of the levy they do the $2 because other counties are hurting, and it does go through, we're now at $3.40 instantly with no way out, or with a difficult way out at best, because levies are levies, and just because they raise our base rate to $2 doesn't have anything to do with the fact that people voted a levy on top of that.
Oh, but everybody, let's rally around because we don't want to be forced to do anything. Brother, Scott Draper, and you guys, you were forcing us to vote on this again. We've already told you what we want. You're the ones that are forcing us. It's like Keith Heck saying, you're out of control. You're saying bad things. No, the only one doing that is Keith. And the same thing here. These guys are saying, you all have to vote again. why do we have to vote again? We told you already.
Yeah.
Well, because
Well, Dale, that's the reason that I'm involved at all is I want to see that the matter is made very loud and clear, so that hopefully they'll end up saying, "Gee, we spent close to $100,000 and still couldn't change their minds." And I'm sure that they'll try again, but I think this next time there'll be a lot more ability to have a compromise for the reality of what we really do want.
They crow about these guys that they've contracted
now,
with. Okay. They're crowing about these guys that they've contracted with. They said, look, up in North, they had 13 votes in a row, and the people said no. As soon as they employed these guys, then suddenly they said yes. Now, this is a victory. The people have said clearly what they want and what they don't want. This firm comes in, does a lot of stuff like think about the children, and that was enough to convince those people to vote just enough against and then force the people who didn't want to. This is a victory. This is only a victory within city and county government, where we finally forced those knuckleheads out there to do what we're telling them is in their best interest. I don't like that kind of thing, and even though I want enhanced law enforcement, I don't trust the people who are bringing it to us specifically because of the tactics that they're using. You got one more, Mike?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, there's a couple more here. Now, the one thing we have talked about a number of times is the difference between the levels of crime in the county and in the city. But in the eyes of the levee people, we're all the same.
The division of city-county needs to be erased from people's minds. We are all citizens of Josephine County, and that's a great place. One of the commissioners, the way he painted it, is the city people like to go play in the county people like to come in for commerce. We are all one big happy family here, and people want law enforcement. They want protection. So.
Yeah, Marty, we've asked Bill Landis with the city police to put up a sign at the city limits saying if you live in the county, it is illegal to come into the city and steal stuff and run back into the county. So far, he hasn't done it. And, of course, I'm saying that in jest. It doesn't work that way. We are in this together.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think is going to happen, Bill, when you go on KJO? If they let you on, do you think that Marty's going to be inserting his own personal views into this and helping you by explaining to everybody why we must do this? KJO, don't get me started on KJO.
Yeah, I think it's probably going to be a lot like you are Mitt Romney, and we're talking about Barack Obama here, and Candy Crowley is going to step in and help out Barack Obama with, recalling the specifics of some particular question. I mean, on this show, it's very clear that you have three parties there, and then you have the host, and they're all on the same team here. They're all, they're all, and Marty's, feeding them stuff, and it's all a mutual admiration society and all of that. Somehow, I don't think it's going to be that way when it comes to the equal time show.
Yeah, there are no illusions over that. Nobody made instant friendships over the weekend, nor will. The thing that we just hope to do, if that actually happens, is bring some of the statistics out so people can say, just a minute, what I'm being told and what reality is are not the same thing. And then hopefully a few of those people will say, well, why is that? And look for answers, be more open to answers. And that's all you can hope for, because they're not playing on your team when you come in for equal time. That's for sure.
Well, the way to handle this, Bill, if I can give you a suggestion, is when Sandy Casanelli and myself, when we went on to talk about the levy a couple of years ago, first thing that we said when we sat down with the host is, as nicely as possible, we won't need your help. Okay, we have plenty to fill up this show, and I know you need to cut away to commercials every once in a while, but we don't need helpful questions. We don't need you leading the way or explaining how we're full of gas. We can handle this by ourselves. I suggest that you make it clear to them in a very nice way. Thanks, but no thanks. We'll take it from here. They backed off.
Okay. Well, I suppose from their point of view, well, let them go hang themselves. And
good. We have the majority. We're the winners. We've always won.
Very emotional issue for everyone because of Go ahead, Mike.
No, well, Dale was saying, we're the winners here. We're the ones who are winning over and over. These guys are the losers. So, and really, you know what? When you examine their arguments, if you sit down and listen to this, and I suggest that you do if you haven't already, sit down and listen to this show a few times and listen to their arguments. It's pretty weak stuff. It's appeal to emotion. That's number one. This false perception. They're saying go with it. Perception is reality. Remember that perception's reality. And what the perception they're talking about is the one they've been feeding you for the last year and a half or 2 years or 10 years or whatever.
Well, the second and last time we were invited as a team to come on to KJO and talk about the levy was after the levy did not pass. Carl Wilson decided to take us on, and I guess he figured he was going to mop up the floor with us. And he said, so, this thing turned out where it didn't pass. And I said, well, yeah, we won this election. You call that winning? A majority of the people said, no. You call it winning? You call that winning that this didn't pass? Well, yeah, if you insist, we're going to call it winning. Well, that's not winning. That's losing. Everybody's losing. Hey, Carl, once again, we don't need your help in interpreting the fact that the majority of the people, again and again and again and again, we're winning. We even hear this from the TV stations. Well, the people are getting together again. They're trying to pass this. Wait a minute. Which people are trying to pass it? The majority of the people or the little minority of the people who are trying to get everybody else to see things the way that they do? If they were being honest with us, that would be a start. If they cut out the commissioners, that would be another start. If they weren't trying to manipulate us by saying, oh, we'd sure like to work with the children, don't manipulate us.
Yeah.
Now it
does discredit. That's right. You're talking down. You're putting yourself as the authority figure who's being nice to us. We just don't understand.
Right. Now we got 3 more of these, so we should rapid fire with quick comments on them. But there's one here that I'm just dying to get to, and it's not this one here. So.
Scott, I'd like to just add 2 things, because a lot of people ask us, why are you pushing this? Why are you so actively involved in this? It's just another levy. It's more taxes and more money. The difference between this levy and the other levies that we've read over the years is that this is specifically earmarked for those services that our community has specifically asked for now. This is very different than just going into this big black hole that people have complained about in the past, specifically to increase patrol services, specific to emergency response, specific to having 160 jail beds, which we need desperately, specifically to open up the Juvenile Justice Center, which we're in desperate need of. The work that we're doing out there 24/7, we see when other people are sleeping in their beds at night, we see what's happening in our community and the degradation that this behavior of these street thugs and those people who have come here with the sole purpose of creating hate and discontent and taking advantage of the generosity of our community, it's offensive to me. This will help us to be able to more effectively respond to those specific areas. And with the Citizens Oversight Committee, there's mechanisms in place to make sure that every dime goes to where the people said that they wanted it to go.
It just about answers itself.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It does. Now, wait a minute. A mental image went through my head of bus loads of criminals coming in to take advantage and to sow seeds of hate and discontent.
Yeah, that's an interesting choice of words because they're not coming here to steal things. They're not coming here to rob people or to cause mayhem in the streets. They're coming to spread hate and mistrust.
Yes.
What does that have to do with profit on their part?
It's
She's
a
not
political
talking about
message.
them. She's talking about us.
Yes.
Spreading hate
Right.
and mistrust.
Yeah.
I wasn't bussed in yesterday. I've been going to these meetings for 15 years. No, if there's anyone spreading distrust, it's public officials who tell you, let's keep it purposely vague. And it doesn't matter how many times Linda Draper says, this is specific, it's specific. They've said that every time, except in the little back room where they were honest and said, let's keep it purposely vague. This is no more specific. Oh, this is totally different. Do you believe, if you believe that this is totally different than ever before, you should vote for this thing. Really. Because,
Yes.
Right.
brother.
Well, and I'll tell you what. The busloads of criminals coming in to sow hate and discontent aren't our biggest problems, but these guys are.
We can no longer sit back and expect somebody else to take care of it for us because it won't happen. The bad guys will dictate the future of our community, and we can't tolerate that.
Well, yeah, and once they gain a foothold, it'll only get worse. And let's use ISIS as an example here. How
What?
Our president labeled them JV, and guess what? They made varsity. And we don't want to see that happen in Josephine County.
Who's
Isn't
the
that
funded
great?
propaganda
Isn't that
group around here? They got $25,000 sunk in this company that tried to change our minds after 10 votes. ISIS. Oh,
He
boy.
said ISIS.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. We're growing exponentially by the minute.
ISIS. Oh, we just wow, man. They're going to be dressing people in orange jumpsuits and beheading them in the public square before you know it.
This is definitely
Yeah,
the Kool-Aid crowd. These guys have drank the Kool-Aid. They'll say anything. They'll do anything. They're going to compare spreading hate and distrust. Criminals don't spread hate and distrust. Those who question government spread distrust. Yes.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's comical.
Yeah. Well, and then
Wow.
and then this last clip is got a bunch of talking down of the community, and Dale and I had talked about this before. This is one of these things that they have been doing, and and creating this perception amongst us that we're in the Old West.
I've been in law enforcement for 20 years, state trooper. I was county reserve, worked for the city of Grants Pass for 16, 17 years, and I watched slowly this slippery slope of our community justice system just start to fail and start to drop off. And I don't think I have to convince anybody out there of that. I think anybody that lives here or passes through can see what we're facing. And that's really why I ran for sheriffs, because I didn't want the last few years, however many that be, to be sitting there and just having to deal with it.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a road warrior scene here when you drive through Grants Pass. Anybody can see it.
Yeah, that's why they stay out. I've seen that now. Yeah,
We need
it's
all this.
everywhere.
We need all this translated for us. Remember when Cheryl Walker said when she drives through town, some people see boarded up businesses. She doesn't. She sees economic and prosperity everywhere you look. There's plenty of businesses happening behind those boards. That's one way of convincing you that she's doing a great job with economic development. This is another. Sorry, Dave Daniel. Oh, when you look out and you don't see crime, you're actually seeing crime. It's everywhere you look. You know what? I don't need anybody to manipulate my opinion of what's happening around me. Stop it.
Yeah.
This what I disliked in that intensely was this. Over the years, I've watched the deterioration. And if you go to the stats, there is absolutely no change for 20 years except that crime is going down in the county. From 97 to 2012, 35% reduction in Josephine County crime.
Right.
It's only gone down, and this whole thing that over the years it has disintegrated, and it's being made up. That has not happened. It did not happen. It's not happening now.
Well, and I mean, the sad part about this is Dave Daniel, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. I think he's a nice guy.
I do too.
Yeah, me too.
And to hear this kind of thing, how is it? Is he hoodwinked by the whole thing too, or is he being disingenuous?
Wow. I
Well,
wish I knew the answer to that
they
one.
may meet for talking points and just stick with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's all the clips in the hopper. There was more. I had to stop cutting. There was 5 more minutes of show left. I thought, well, that's enough. And we're at 90 minutes here.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Yeah, it's been a fast hour and a half, hasn't it?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. Is that really right?
Yeah.
Hour and a half?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's been enjoyable, gentlemen.
Thank you for joining us, Bill. And Bill?
Well, thank you guys. Yes.
Bill, stop lying to us, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
thanks.
be safe out there.
What can you possibly say about this area? We've got a radio station that's doing it. We've got a newspaper that's doing it. Now we have a sheriff that's doing it. No, not you, Dave. Then we've got these people that work for the city and the county that are doing it. The county commissioners are doing it. Sorry, everybody, but there's really only one place you can go to see the actual statistics, because they're not putting those statistics up. They're not sharing any of those statistics with you. And they come from us. Nobody's making them up.
Well, they made them up originally.
It doesn't.
They're the ones that we're getting them from.
It does not serve them to share that with the public, and it doesn't serve them for the commissioners to explain what they're actually doing with that money. It does not serve these guys for them to admit that we're not the lunkheads. We're not the ones with the learning disability. They are not listening to us, and you cannot think, because you probably talk with some of your friends and say, I'm not going to vote for that thing. That's $1.40. That's more than it was last time. You can't rest on that. You can't say, well, okay, so that's going to take care of itself. This thing that they said in that last clip is we can't just sit back and watch it. Yeah, you can't just sit back and watch it happen, because these guys are going to come in. They're counting on this being a small election, that they've lulled you into a sense of security or whatever by acting like lunkheads. I don't know what their strategy is on that. You may think, well, I probably don't have to vote this time because this is a done deal. Eternal vigilance. You're going to need to vote.
Absolutely.
Whatever you think is the right answer, go ahead and vote any way you like. We're not saying that you must do one thing or another like they're doing. We're trying to bring to you the facts, and then we take it apart. And then if they want to take us apart, go right ahead. Good luck with that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.